Hi, good evening, everyone, to another episode of Joe and Ro Talk Toastmasters, a podcast by Toastmasters for Toastmasters and guests and friends. It is our third episode today, and I'm so excited on this rainy evening. We have a lot of people online in this room, and we will also have a lot of people joining us once we are live. But before we start the podcast, there are some few ground rules. And I think this is very common in Toastmasters. We don't start anything without our ground rules. So simple. This podcast is a conversation, my dear friends. It's not an interview. So please don't expect that we are going to ask questions to our guest and he's going to give answers. We're going to have a flow of beautiful conversation in the evening. So grab your cups of coffee and tea, sit down, relax for an hour of conversation. Keep yourself on mute and your video switched off. Pin the host, that is myself, Joanne, my co-host Ron, and our very own guest, Avinash. Keep us on pin and rest everyone, please switch off your cameras. After the recording is done and after we finish the podcast, there will be a few minutes of networking. At that point of time, you can obviously switch on your cameras, unmute yourself, and talk with each other. Meanwhile, if you find something interesting happening during the conversation or you feel like you have some question, do use the chat. The chat will be active. We will pick up some questions as and when we feel that possible during the conversation. Now, let's get back to the evening. Tonight, we have someone very special. And I know I say that in every episode that we have someone very special. But tonight, the person that I'm going to introduce to you as a guest is an enigma to me. One, because I've heard a lot of things about him, but I've never heard him speak live. I've never been that, fortunate to see Avinash Singh live. And oh my God, I just said his name. It is none other than DTM Avinash Singh. Now, everyone in District 98 knows who Avinash Singh is. Like, he is a household name. For the newcomers and guests and friends who are there in this meeting and who are going to watch the podcast, a little bit about Avinash Singh. Avinash is the founder of Training Influence. He's a coach, a learning and development consultant with more than 15 years of experience. He has been a passionate Toastmaster for the past 7 years and has won many awards and accolades, highlighting some 2 district championships, one in humorous speech contest and one in table topic contest. He has had podium finishes in many ISC contests. I've heard that, even though he has not given me that in his introduction. He has conducted over 150 educational sessions in Toastmasters, both in India and abroad, and is known for crafting speeches, teaching about impromptu speaking, and adding humor to speeches. And he has been doing this since 2020. Whew, that was a mouthful, right, Ron? That was so much for our guest.
Yeah, I always say, if you want to be the best, you have to learn from the best. And we always have the best on this podcast to learn from, to have a conversation with. And I'm so thrilled to have Avinash today talking with us, sharing his ideas, sharing his views. This is going to be very, very interesting. So hold on to your seats.
Hold on to your seats with your coffee cups. Tonight, what is the theme? Every time we bring an episode, we bring a theme, right? Like the first episode, we were talking about ideas. In the second episode, we spoke about how to add humor and how to craft your speech from the scratch. Today is something special. Today, we are going to talk about the art of storytelling. Now, storytelling is something so important, I feel. From time immemorial, from the caveman times, what has survived? It's storytelling. Philosophers, great teachers, poets, prose, everything has survived through the history of humankind, through the art of storytelling. But I'm not an expert in storytelling. So let's listen from our expert, Avinash. But before going to Avinash, who is the center stage star today, I'll go to my co-host, Ron Bilimoria. Ron, what do you think about the importance of storytelling in public speaking and speechcraft in general?
Yeah, so for me, storytelling is one of the most fascinating aspects of Toastmasters. The best speeches, the most impactful speeches that I've heard over the years have this element of beautiful storytelling, which not only impacts us in our minds, but also in our hearts. And it's a very, very vital skill that each and every Toastmaster has to master to become a good speaker. It's one of those things where if you are a good storyteller, then you are a complete speaker. And without that, you cannot be a complete speaker. Now, storytelling is basically a foundation of our entire society. If you read the book Sapiens by Yuval Harari. I think it's a fantastic book. Everybody should read it. And he says in that book that our entire society has formed and grown because we all buy into different stories. So if you want to make an impact in society, if you want to make an impact in your environment, if you want to make an impact as a speaker, as a influencer, stories are one of the most important tools. And Toastmasters gives you a fantastic platform to learn this art of storytelling, create impact, how to give impactful stories. So let's listen to our guest today, and we'll pick up a few things along the way. And hopefully by the end of the session, we'll have a lot of ideas and tips on to include stories within our own speeches going forward. And that's very important for us, that the sessions we also have a lot of practical things that we can use in our next meetings. Go ahead, Joanne.
Go ahead, Joanne. No, go ahead, Avinash. Now I'll give the stage to our guest of honor, Avinash Singh, DTM. Avinash, over to you. How to create an impactful story? What do you think?
Thank you, Ro and Joe. And I'm taking this opportunity to thank you in front of everyone, because this is something which has not been there for a very long time. Podcasting is there through districts, but two different clubs collaborating, this is the first time. So thank you for having me here. And about storytelling, so we as Toastmasters craft a lot of stories. I have seen a lot of impactful stories, starting from why I joined Toastmasters. I see something in you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And he kept on saying, I see something in you. And I kept on asking him, oh, what do you see? What do you see? And then he says, I don't know what it is. And I felt like, then why did you start the conversation? But I was, of course, talking to the video. So the point here, which I wanted to share about this beautiful speech, was it had so many short stories. Now, in speeches, unlike the project which you have in level 3 electives, in international speeches, you will see short glimpses of stories, but they are shared in such a way that you can create a mental imagery or your visual imagery, what you can say. If you think about Dhananjaya Hitarachi, he was incarcerated and he was talking about how his mother felt. And
absolutely, very emotional and
very emotional, right?
Yes.
Then you talk about Mohammad Katani, 2015.
Absolutely.
He was talking about his son not listening to him, right?
Oh, I remember that action he made on the wall, and he's
on the wall,
looking back at him and just drawing on the wall. Yeah,
it's still there.
Yeah, and unforgettable.
You have Prasyan Vasilao, about changing a tire, right? So there are so many short stories embedded into these fantastic speeches, which are not elaborate, but they pack a punch. And that's what we can learn from these speeches, these stories. But what I have learned through over the years with respect to storytelling is we have always been part of these stories, through movies, through, through different books that we read. And I have this thing of connecting things, right? I can connect a lot of stories and I try to find the source. So when I was looking at Bahubali, and I was like, Mahabharata, right? This is Mahabharata, right? And then I went to something which Dr. Brilliant keeps on talking about, Parampara, Pratishtha, Anushasana, in Mohabbatein. And then I went to Dead Poet Society, right?
Okay. Oh yeah, Captain, my Captain.
Gurukul had 3 Teen's Thumb, and Dead Poet Society, there were 4 pillars, right? So, there is already so many stories that we have seen. And then there are adaptations. Then we get inspired by those great stories, whether it's mythology, whether it's You talk about books, you talk about great playwrights like Shakespeare, and these stories. Okay, Brilliant says, "Naam liya main hazir." Okay,
Hey,
so
brilliant.
yeah, hi, Brilliant. So when you talk about all these stories, they have something in common, and I feel that every story needs to have that main idea, that is the emotion part of it, and that connects to us in a much deeper way, and that makes anything impactful.
Can
So
you elaborate on that?
yeah,
What do you mean by the emotional connect of the story?
yeah, emotional connect. So I keep on talking about the Aristotle rhetoric and the pathos of the there is ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos
Logos.
is getting that credibility through storytelling, especially personal story. Pathos is the emotions, and logos is the logic of it. But when you talk about pathos, the emotions part, we are all emotional beings, and we need to work on sharing stories which people can actually catch. Oh, I relate to this. If you are someone who has delivered a lot of speeches, and if people come and say that, oh, the story which you told, I related to it. Somewhere down the line, we have lived, maybe in a different way. I'll give you a small example. Now, I had been to this one of the contests in Pakistan, right?
Pakistan.
Pakistan, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
there was a contest, there was a division contest. I have been to that particular contest in Pakistan. And we have been born and raised with a different idea, in our minds with respect to Pakistan. Oh, not good people. Okay. So yeah, there are so many things, but there was something there, and they had this unique competition in their district about Urdu speech telling, right?
Okay.
And there was this gentleman, and he had gray hair, and it seemed that he had seen life in great quantities. So he was talking about his school time. Now, when he was talking about his school time, he started about his teacher, and they used to call him Ustad, right? So Ustad, we call Guru, they call Ustad. And all the Ustads had one thing in common. They used to hit children,
Oh,
right? They used to whack them. And this particular guy, he was like, okay, I don't know how to memorize. I might not be a great student. So let me, what can I do? Be ready for the whacking. And he used to be ever ready for that whacking. And because he was ready, he used to live life to the fullest. And one
bindas.
day, and he never worked on those marks, something which we call memorizing marks. You get 90%, get a good job. No, he was just enjoying life, and he knew that if what's the worst that could happen? Ustad marega, bas. That's it, right? And then in 7th or 8th standard, he was not that great in English. And they had a change of teachers, and there was this nice teacher who said, okay, let's give him a name, Usman. Okay, so Usman, stand up. Okay, tell me about the meaning of the word flabbergasted, say for example. And this chap, he didn't know it, and he just did this,
Oh,
Wow.
right?
so amazing.
And
Yeah.
he just did this, and the Ustad said, sit down. I expected more from you.
Okay.
And he was someone who never hit a child. And somewhere down the line, through the teachings, it evoked a sense of emotion in this small child. Usman was in 6th or 7th standard when this Ustad came in his life, and it changed the perception, and he started working harder. And he gives credit to this particular person who changed his life, because he was not there to punish you. He was there to uplift you.
Such a
And
beautiful
when,
story. Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a wonderful story. But what happened there is, I, an Indian,
Hmm.
was emotionally, involved with a Pakistani. Someone who would have, said, "What are you doing?" But any human, okay, if you're talking about international speech competition, we are connected through emotions. And
Emotion.
there are so many things like the school life which are so similar. I remember there are, I was fortunate that I was monitor in all my classes, so I used to point, oh, usko maro. But
I can imagine why. I can imagine looking at you. You were a monitor, definitely.
okay. But when you talk about I also had this misfortune of sometimes getting punished, and I used to see also that there were teachers who could change your life, and there were teachers who just wanted the discipline part of it. And when you understand these kind of emotions and how to share with the audience, you have cracked something which can help you, impact many lives. So speech delivery for me is not only about giving a message, or it's touching people, right, in the right way. And when you talk about uh, what I believe Maya Angelou said, that people will not
Oh,
remember your words.
They will
people will
remember
not
how you.
remember what you did. They will not remember what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. One of my favorite quotes by Maya Angelou.
See, so I didn't even had to share the whole quote, right? People knew.
Absolutely.
So you just have to point them in the right direction, and people will understand, how exactly to share. And we do this, believe me, we do this in our own way, in our own mother tongue, or, native language. But when it comes to English, then sometimes, it becomes very difficult to share those emotions.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You've raised such a beautiful point, and the story was fantastic. And what I am getting out of it is that there is, in everybody's life, there are those moments and those experiences which are sometimes painful, sometimes negative, sometimes transformational as well. So for people who are writing speeches, what would you advise be to go into your history, go into your past and find those, and how do you take those out and put them into your speech? Where you go back into your mind and your memories, and how do you kind of pull out those nuggets and then fit them into a speech? So because that
I would
that
like
I think would be very powerful, right?
Yeah, and I would like to add something to this, what exactly Ron asked. Let me first tell you, Avinash, mind blown. And I'm not just praising you for praising, just for the sake of praising. I was sitting down in the morning and thinking, like for an ISP speech, from where should I bring the idea? Nothing transformative has happened in my life. Like now, Ron was talking about something transformative, something inspirational. And when I look back in my life, I'm like, it's a common life, nothing transformational, nothing inspirational. But today, when you spoke about that school incident, I realized it doesn't need to be transformational, inspirational. We all have gone through something common, that is being alive as humans. And it is very easy to find some nuggets from that, right? So adding to Ron's question, even if we don't have a transformational story, how do we find these emotional connections and stories from our history? Like some tips from your side.
Sure. So when you talk about storytelling, let me first set the foundation right. Okay. So what does a story need? A story needs a plot. It needs characters. It needs a setting, and then you have the hero's journey. Right now, usually when we sit and think about stories, we think that, okay, I am the hero, right? I am the protagonist. then what is that transformation that happens? But there are three kinds of heroes journeys. Okay, so and there are million tropes. Okay, I'll talk about the tropes later. But when you talk about storytelling in itself, okay, just take the hero's journey. Now, a hero's journey, a hero can fight a monster, right? David, fighting dragons, or someone,
David and Goliath.
some monster, right?
Or a teacher also, for that
Yeah,
matter.
yeah. So the monster can be anything. It can be a social evil. It can be your fears, right? So are you fighting something? Okay, it's your stage fear. It's maybe thinking about how do I look. My humorous speech was about losing my hair. Okay, that's what Joanne was quickly. No, I'm not talking about how bald you are. But believe me, the main idea is that, okay, I've crossed the first barrier, that, okay, the acceptance is there, right? But what am I fighting? Okay, the hero's journey. So you can share about what you're fighting. Okay, the hero fighting monsters. The other type is about the quest of a hero. Okay, finding treasure. Now, there are so many movies you must have seen about finding treasures, right? Okay, you have Treasure Island, you have so many movies.
Indiana Jones.
Yes, Indiana Jones, right? So what is the treasure that you are seeking, okay, in your life? Okay, is the so it can be in form of some skill, it can be in a form of some behavior change, or something that you are trying to find the meaning of life in itself, right? So what exactly is that treasure you are trying to find? So hero's journey, or the quest to find the treasure. And the third, and one of the things which you already shared, is transformation. So a hero goes on a journey, comes back transformed, right? So the journey itself is something which helps the hero transform into something he was not before, right? And then you will have a lot of tropes like anti-heroes, right? So they start as not so much towards the heroism, but they do something which only heroes do.
The
And then
vigilantes.
they are, yeah, but they are not truly, they have the gray shade. But like I wore this today. I don't know if you can see. Okay, it's Batman. Okay, so at night I transform into Batman. So I love that anti-hero trope of Batman, right? Trying to save the city and not exactly showing who he really is, right? So that is the three. Even if you take these three things, there are so many things with respect to hero's journey or different tropes. But even if you just take these three, whether you're fighting a monster, whether you are trying to go on a quest, or whether you have gone through a journey of transformation by coming and all changed, right? So
and everybody has that in their lives, right?
everybody has gone 1 2. And the beautiful thing about storytelling is not, you don't have to be the protagonist. मेरे पिताजी लैंप के लाइट में पढ़ते थे, वो 50 kilometers चल के school जाते थे. There are so many things which our fathers used to say, and we're like, no, you are joking, right? Okay, because all the fathers say the same thing. Okay, but you have that thing that, okay, my father, my brother, my sibling, maybe sister, my friend, my grandmother, grandfather, uncle, they also can be the heroes in your story, because they are people who have actually maybe gone through that transformation or fought monsters, and you can tell their story and what you learned and how did it transform you, what lessons did you learn, right? Now, I am a great fan of one of our veteran Toastmaster Subramanian. We used to call him, we still call him Subbu sir, right? So Toastmaster Subramanian won the table topics contest in 2018, the district contest, right?
Yes.
And before that, he was just observing, my God, right? And he was very technical about it. And every educational session, he used to show us the whole list of stories that he had.
Oh.
He had more than 250 stories with him written on his life through different phases. Correct? I have 5 stories.
Personal stories.
Personal stories.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be the whole thing. It can be a short incident which you can turn into a story, right? So courage, maybe love, maybe failure, maybe challenge, maybe winning something. What are those stories that you have? And then he had a bunch of quotes that he knew by heart, memorized.
Absolutely.
And then he had stories of famous people, right? And we love these underdog stories, the rag to riches stories, right? And that creates emotion. And we have these I'll give you an example. So have you I keep on telling this in most of my educational sessions in speech crafting. So you have seen this uh, India's Got Talent,
Yeah.
America's Got Talent,
Yeah. Yeah.
UK, every country has got talent, right? Okay, so very talented people. So when you talk about, I will implore you to not see the interview. Just this Britain's Got Talent, somebody is going to sing. Just hear that part, the song start and song end. You'll see the first thought that came to my mind when I heard one of those performances, especially singing, I've heard better. What's special
Okay.
about this?
Okay.
And then you come to the interview part.
The story.
The
The
story.
story. How did it reach? How did the person reach at this stage? In India, most of the talented people come from auto rickshaw walas, right? Okay, their family is full with talented people. Okay, so adversity is something which propels us, right? And there are so many things to create emotions already. Oh, he was unfortunate. Viru Sahasrabuddhe from Three Idiots, he used to say, okay, everyone is running a race, right? Okay, if you don't run the race, you are a broken anda, whatever. But when you talk about running the race, we all have a different starting line. And if you understand that, then the emotions flow. Oh,
Absolutely.
underdog.
I remember a long time back, there was this one icebreaker speech. And that icebreaker speech had this very tiny little story. But just that small story actually made me almost cry. And this guy was telling him how he had struggled from a language, Marathi medium language, to learn struggle English. And he was telling how his background was from a village. And he actually said that the alphabet was taught to him by his mother on the kitchen floor by drawing on chalk on the kitchen floor. That's where he learned his ABCDs and his E, whatever that language is. And just listening to this man now standing and giving a speech in a Toastmaster club and just thinking of what he has just shared with us. And I could imagine that I could just picture him sitting with his mom in that kitchen, she drawing those characters on the with chalk on the floor and he learning. And it immediately kind of, I just welled up, I almost cried at that time. So even a simple story, I think, from your life, from this, I think icebreakers are really underestimated for the beautiful stories that come with them, don't they?
Yes.
I
I
agree.
totally agree. Yes.
But I have a question, and I always come with these questions because I think being new in Toastmasters, this question comes in. I agree completely with both of you that emotions are the key to every successful speech and story. But sometimes, I sit in the audience and I see, I recently saw a woman come and give a speech in our club, and she literally cried, and it was overwhelming. But I felt like, was it too much? What if, even if I say that story, I can't make people cry? I don't have that ability. So what is that, line where emotion is too much? And where should we start and stop when it comes to emotions?
Definitely.
What stories can we share and maybe what not? In a public
Good
speaking
question.
forum.
Good question.
In a public speaking forum.
Yes.
Avinash, your thoughts.
Yes, sure. See, in one of those, educational sessions, I said that nobody likes to hear a sad story not end on a winning note. Okay. So when you talk about emotions, how much is too much? I remember, a lot of people have said this. Even the current world champion Cyril Junior Dim has said this about Mark Twain. So he said that people, you want to share the truth with people, right? But make them laugh, okay, or they will kill you. So when you talk about truth, what is your truth? And if you're trying to share the truth, can you share it in a jovial way? It should hit. Now, that's why I'm a fan of Marathi plays. So if you get a chance and if you understand Marathi plays, okay, they start with a lot, maybe 60-70% in the beginning. It's all humor, it's all laughter, it's all entertainment to the brim. And then when you are on the high, they just take you katak down to that emotional moment.
Interesting.
Okay. And there, I still remember Yada Kadachit, that was, a play which was based on Mahabharata, right? So there were funny puns, like, when you talk about, okay, Kunti test karat hoti, means Kunti was testing, and Karna janmala ala, okay, means the Karan was born. So Karan ha test tube baby kai. Okay, so there was this fun element, and though it was mythological, it was of course at that time people were not offended by small things, but then they had this one line after, at the end, truth will triumph. Shevti, Satyachi Vijay Aste.
Satyameva Jayate.
Yeah. And then someone asked, if truth is so powerful, why at the end? Why not at the beginning?
Wow.
Why should truth win at the end? Right? And that hit you. That hit you so hard. Okay. And now, see, now you are at this downward spiral, right? You're all emotional. And suddenly, then they take you up again. A little light movement, just caressing you again. They will not leave you at the same, laughter thing, but enough to make you come out of that emotional, when you are actually choking. Okay. So they will try to, and the best part about people who deliver, they themselves do not choke. Okay. So there are so many stories that you might have in your life, but ensure that when you are sharing that, you don't choke. Okay. Because if you choke, it's done. People might be, overwhelmed. They might get you, but the impact will, you'll not be able to finish that loop, that, giving that message and keeping that message alive in people's mind. You will choke and you will be there at the emotional moment. So
yeah. I remember this thing from that dialogue from this movie Tal, where the guy was talking to Aishwarya Rai. I think it was, who was the actor in Tal?
Akshay Khanna.
Akshay Khanna, no, the other guy.
Anil Kapoor.
Anil Kapoor, yes. And this line stuck with me. हम दर्द खरीदते नहीं, हम दर्द बेचते हैं. And I think that immediately came to me right now, that you are actually selling the pain. You're not buying the pain from. So you don't want to show your pain, but the audience should definitely feel it, right? Very beautiful point. Yeah.
So what I'm getting from both of you is that, like, only share those emotions which you're sure you will share and come out without getting into the grief. Only when you're ready, you're like, for example, I feel like it's not a therapy session. Don't make your stage a therapy session, right? I heard this some great speaker once tell that don't make the stage a therapy session. Share only those stories where you won't get wounded and you get back into those emotions. You just share the story, the lessons, and come back out of stage. Only those stories should be shared. And another great thing I learned, even if it's a sad story, end it on a winning note. Right, Avinash?
Yes.
Thank you, God. Wow. Yes,
It's
Avinash.
yeah, it's very important to end on a note where, people are comfortable walking out and they are inspired, right? Because uh, the feeling needs to be that there is hope. If you leave people on sadness, that's why I don't like anthologies, okay, because there is, kuch nahi hota hai. End mein, okay, marne wale, right? There is
You
nothing
feel
happening.
like, why
But
did I waste that time?
why did
Why
I
did
do
I
that?
waste my
People disagree with that. They want to be in that particular zone also
Yeah, I
while
mean,
watching
Game of Thrones is popular, but everybody dies in it at the end of the day.
anthology.
But still, people. I mean, there is, of course, for every audience there is a.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
but that doesn't apply to a speech because you have very limited time to take the audience on a journey,
yes.
and your journey should start and go up and down, and the audience should go up and down with you, but you end on a very
end on a winning note?
And
on a
on
positive
up
note. You take
and
them to a place where they feel good about the entire story. I guess that's what Avinash is saying, right?
yes, and on a hopeful stance where there is hope that you because the hero's journey always ends with he triumphing over or anything which is challenging, right? So that the climax, and after that you should feel that, oh my God, I should also go through my challenges, and I should also, try to overcome my challenges in life. So that's something that's very important, because uh, when you make people feel that, there is hope, then that everyone is struggling. Everyone has gone through different aspects of what challenging life could be. Even people who have money, even the people who have fame, they have different challenges. So everybody has gone through it. But the main idea here is to give them a message which uplifts them. And when you uplift people, then you have that impact on, there is this impact. Okay? So this is something which I feel that we all should work upon. What I was also talking about is, how do you get these stories? So, how do you get these stories? I use this particular method where you have an emotion wheel. So you have primary emotions and you have secondary emotions, and there is an emotion wheel. You just Google search it, you will get it. And I keep telling to people that, take that emotion wheel, and whether it's, joy, anger, sorrow, whatever emotion you have, try to find a story related to that particular aspect, okay, in from your life. And everyone has some or the other story with respect to that particular life, right? So I failed. Okay, I failed in when I was a child. I failed in a lot of competitions. When I used to come home, I was crestfallen. I was my mother couldn't make it out. Okay? And her way of showing love was not saying anything. Okay? She used to make hot piping kheer for me
Mhm.
to give, and she used to just caress. And that made me feel that, oh, tomorrow is another day. Let's try again. So when you have these kind of stories, see, every mom, mothers have something in them that, there there will be a story related to mom. There will be a story related to dad. Now, I use story of dads, and even Cyril used a
Yeah,
story of dad.
very, very beautifully.
Rise and
Yes.
shine. I
so
remember. I remember.
so so when I think about, there's this one story which I feel, okay. Now let's see it in simple terms, okay, and then let's see how you can transform that story in order to give a message, okay. So, incident: we are lower middle class family at that point of time. We barely got many things. My father's business was not doing that great, and it was Diwali time, and my father had somehow managed to get a big consignment, as in big project, and he got some money, and good amount of money. But we didn't know when the next check will be, right? Okay. So at that point of time, my elder sister was quite elder. She's 14 years elder to me, till. So when you talk about, she's more like my mother rather than my sister. So um, my father, during Diwali, oh, my son should have, okay, crackers, firecrackers. And the shopkeepers, they said, oh, sir, take this. and he had given every kind of cracker. I had not even seen those kind of crackers, and my father brought it. And I was very happy. Okay, that, oh, I'll now compete with the children from the building in lighting those crackers. But my sister became the villain. She said, "What is the use of all these? You're burning money and all. Okay, Avinash, take this, sparkle, take this flower, take this, a few things, one rocket, return everything else." Okay, and she persuaded, and she was, of course, elder, and she used to hit me. So, I
Seems to
never,
be a
yeah,
theme
yeah,
theme running through this whole
carrot
episode.
and the stick. So she was one of those. Okay, my
Yeah.
parents never touched me, but she was good. She used to give me good.
Iron lady, let her call
Yeah,
her
yeah, I know.
that.
So I was angry. I was sad, and I lost all those opportunity to show off in front of uh, my friends. Now, how can this be in transformation or an inspirational story?
That actually brings me to a very good question, and you've actually brought us very nicely to this point. Is you have stories, obviously you have stories, but what does embellishment, exaggeration, how do you use that to take your story from level A to level B and
Yes,
really make it audience worthy, if you can call it that,
yes,
So I think that's what you are asking, right? How do you
yes,
take the story and embellish it, polish it,
yes. How
maybe
do you show
exaggerate
that
a little
side?
bit?
How do you?
Yeah.
I'll come to that particular point. So now, if you get a chance to, I'll come to this story, but before that, I'll just give you one small sample of what it is that I'm trying to say. If you get a chance to see this movie called Vantage Point, okay, if I don't know if you have seen this movie, it's not a very well-known movie.
Sounds familiar. Sounds very familiar.
It has Dennis Quaid in it. Okay, so Vantage Point is a movie. The main plot is there is a bomb blast. Okay, someone has blasted a bomb. Okay, now this movie gives you 6 different vantage points. Okay, so when you see from the protagonist, how did he see the bomb blast? Okay, then someone, the actress. Yes, yes, vantage point. Okay, Cyril also said vantage point. So I think I said the right right way. Okay, so when you,
I think he's confirming
oh,
that
he's
it's vantage.
confirming. Okay, so
Yes, it is.
Cyril, question mark. Okay, so when you talk about that particular, so there were 6 different people through whose eyes that particular scene was replayed. Okay, so what happened according to you? What happened according to you? And that's what happens. This is life. According to me, my life, I have experienced this life in my way, but you have experienced it in a different way. So the same incident, but we will remember it differently. And that's what we need to understand, how exactly to portray it. Okay, so when I see through my eyes as a child, okay, what I remember is my sister was the villain. My father tried to do something good, and she snatched away that one beautiful thing that happened to me at that point of time on Diwali. But then I keep on listening to a lot of poetries. Okay, so, and in one of those, I don't remember the poet, a Hindi poet, and he talks about pita kya hai, pita ye hai, pita wo hai, pita wo hai, and and पिता है तो सब सपने मुकम्मल, या it's possible. पिता है तो बाजार के सब खिलौने अपने. And when I heard that, I was transported to that particular time, that it was not about the crackers. It was about my father making me feel that you are the most important thing in my life, and all the things, whatever is materially available also, I'll try my best to provide it to you, because you are the most important thing in my life. So when you look with that point, the father's love, he never told me he loved me, he was proud of me, never. The best I got was sarcasm. Okay, but these acts showed those loving things, right?
Wow.
And
Yeah.
if you can equate that, okay, fathers are not they were not expressive. I, of course, I've learned, so I say a lot of things to my child, but fathers were never expressive. So how do you bring this particular point? Okay, my father wanted me to have everything in the world, right? So that is, that's enough for me to be the best version of myself, right? Because he's trying his best. Can I try my best, right? So how can you take that story and change it into different ways? It can go multiple ways. Okay, what kind of message you want? Okay, so that day I was sharing about my son in the president's training. We had TLTP, right? So
Yeah.
in the president's training, I asked these people that, okay, tell me what happens next. Okay, my son comes with a report and he shows, Papa, I got 85%. As a father, okay, typical father, what will be my next sentence?
Toastmaster father will go for CRC method, I'm sure about. Comment, recommend, and then comment, right? All Toastmasters father should do that.
I'm
No,
suspecting
but
you are asking where did the 15% go?
exactly, right? 15 kha diya, 15%, where is it, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking about, as presidents, you are the father, right? So celebrate small accomplishments. Okay, it was not small. 85% is a big thing. Okay, so
Of course.
rather than focusing on that 15% which was not achieved, can you celebrate that 85%? And if you can do that, you can create a culture where people will be trying to perform and outperform more. If I celebrate that 85%, that can go to 90. But if I don't, if I ask about those 15%, then maybe 85 can go 80 and maybe 60. So any story, any small incident can turn into a life lesson. You just need to understand how exactly to show it to people. What is the vantage point through which you will show this particular story to people?
I love the vantage point idea. It's so beautiful and so multidimensional. You can come at one story from so many different angles, and maybe one angle clicks better than any other ones, right? That's a
Yeah.
beautiful idea. Yes, absolutely.
Ron, Avinash,
Fantastic.
like, I think this can go on for hours, and this here itself is a story happening,
Yeah,
which
where
I
the
can go
time
back
goes,
and
no?
talk
So
about
fast.
too. Yeah, but we have just 10 more minutes, and I need to get as much as pearls of wisdom I can from you. So,
Mm.
two questions to you. One, what Ron asked, it was a brilliant question. How much exaggeration is okay? And is there a limit to that? And my second question to you before we sign off today is, you said people were not offended by small things back then, but nowadays people get offended very easily. So what do we take care of in storytelling? Even gender is offensive. Talking about feminism is offensive to so many people. So what do you think? What do we need to take care of when we are thinking of stories, especially in public speaking? And how much embellishment is not too much embellishment? Avinash,
See,
Ron?
when you talk about embellishment and you have a particular story, you can't exaggerate to a limit that it stops being genuine. Okay, and it will show when you speak. Okay, when it's a made up story, somewhere down the line, people sense it because you have not gone through those emotions. Now, the incident was true. The way I project it can be different, but the incident needs to be true. It cannot be a manufactured incident. And that's where, you don't need to manufacture. You have so many such stories. There can be so many things which you just have to go back. Maybe the regression therapy, you can find out, just don't go to
Yeah,
the
that's a very
previous
good
life.
thing.
Don't
Stories
go to
can be
past.
so therapeutic also, right? When
Yes,
you're writing stories, when you're telling stories, I think it changes a little
Yeah,
bit
it can.
inside you as well. Yeah,
As
definitely.
definitely.
long as your stage is not a therapy session,
Yeah, as
Yes.
long as you're
all
not
is
analyzing the audience, it's fine.
Yes.
yes, all
So
is
you
fine.
need to find out that particular story which has the highest impact in your life. Okay. What is your transformation journey? So I wanted to be an actor. I turned out to be a learning and development professional. Okay, so how did I go from trying to be an actor and not becoming that and becoming this, right? So can there be a transformation story, right? So I'll have to position it in such a way that, okay, what are the failures in my life? Okay, I wanted to be someone else, but I am someone else, but I am very happy doing what I am doing right now. So how can I share that particular story, and what are the points which are, how do you set it? When did it start? And how do you, change from, how do you transition? Okay, what is the most challenging part? Okay, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the hero's triumph. Okay, so if you want people to have that impact, you, like Ron said, about the speaker, about learning ABCD, and mother drawing on the ground. So it's a very emotional story, right? And it is not something which we might have seen those stories. Okay, but if you have gone through it, only then you cannot say that my grandmother's told me this story, that so it will not be genuine. So be genuine with respect to the stories that you say. Try to say it without choking. If you can say it, then use those stories. I had to redraft my speech a lot of times because I was choking thinking about my father, right? So because at that time when he was there, I used to hate him. Okay, but when he left and I became a father, I really understood that, okay, मैं वही करता हूं जो मेरा बाप करता था, right? Okay, so I am the same thing. I do the same things which my father used to do. And then now I tell my child that, okay, एक दिन तू समझेगा. When you become a father, then you will understand. But maybe you can hate me now, but I'll be a disciplinarian. Okay, I'll not be a friend. I'll be a parent, and I'm good with that. Okay, because I learned that. Yeah? Okay?
History continues.
Yeah, history continues. And the other part which you said is people getting offended. Now, sarcasm gets people offended. Okay, there are some things when you project out, when you are trying to have fun or create humor, you go outside you. Okay, instead do self-deprecation. Okay, so if I talk about I being bald, okay, people will laugh. Okay, they will laugh at me first, but eventually they'll learn to laugh with me, and that is your journey to become a good humorist. So start with you. Okay, so whatever you give your examples. Okay, or someone close to you, your wife, your parents, your friends. So it's very good to, if you are doing something which has a little bit of chance to offend people, direct it towards you and your family.
Okay,
then you can share it, and if you share it in that particular way, there are less chances. Okay, then there are people who can get offense, take offense on anything, right? Okay, but it will minimize drastically your chances of. That's why we say personal story. Use personal stories rather than some other stories. So it will help you connect better. People will find you genuine, and you will also minimize the offensive part of it because you are directing it towards yourself.
Wow, that's a great learning. I've never heard this, somebody telling me, next time I want to talk about feminism, not about feminism, talk just about my experience. And I'm sure I don't even need to use the word feminism. Yeah. I just need to share that experience, and all the women and men in the audience will connect to me. That's a really new take on what being offensive and, those tiptoeing topics, how to handle that. Thank you so much, Avinash. I have so many questions in my mind. I'm sure Ron does too.
Yeah, but let's see if there's anything from the chat.
Yeah, exactly. We just have 7 minutes. Any questions, guys? You have been a fantastic audience listening to us patiently. I know it's not patience. Like listening to Avinash today has been a pleasure.
It was very interesting. The time just flew by today. Absolutely.
I swear. If you have any questions, put them on the chat. Meanwhile, Avinash, let me ask you this thing. How did your journey as a storyteller start? Did you always dream to be a storyteller? Like you gave us all these gems, these pearls, but how did you become a storyteller? What inspired you to do that?
I was forced into it. My teachers, my teachers in the senior KG made me Baigan Raja. Okay, so my only dialogue I still remember, senior KG, right? Okay, I still, are you Bhindi Maharani? Are hurt? Something like that, right? I remember that I was Baigan Raja, right? So at that time I was on stage. From that time I have been on stage. But the transformation with respect to storytelling came through Toastmasters a lot, because when I wanted to be on the international stage because I had seen Dhananjay Aitrachi, and I was like, वो भी टकला मैं भी टकला, okay, okay, वो भी toastmaster मैं भी toastmaster, वो world champion मैं बन सकता है, right? So
Why
okay,
not? Yeah.
so that was the connection. So I wanted to be, I still want to be on that international stage, so I started with that notion that, oh, I know everything. Okay, I am already 7 years into learning and development. I have taken so many workshops. I know what public speaking is all about. But when I started entering competitions and I started losing,
Yeah.
then
Been
I
there,
said
yes.
that, oh, something is wrong. I'm not able to comprehend what exactly is wrong. And then the thing which I hate is going into details. And Toastmasters, especially competing, has forced me to go into details. What exactly works? Okay, it took me, 5 attempts to win a district championship in humor. It took me 6 attempts to, win the district championship in table topics, and still I don't, feel that I am the greatest, or something even near that. I have a lot to learn. Okay, because at that point of time, it was, at that point of time, I was good. So how can I be good many times? So
Consistency, the
yes,
consistency.
consistency. How can I do that? And that led me to reflect, introspect. And then I came to know that, okay, I can find out more things, about storytelling, about, how exactly to craft speeches. And education sessions also help, because people ask a lot of questions. And sometimes I am clean bold. I don't know. Yeah, in the evening, in the beginning, I didn't know most of the, I'll get back to you. That was my thing. But I went back and found out what exactly can help. But knowing something, sharing something, and implementing are different things. I can say a lot of things. Even today, I believe, I have said a lot of things. I know it. But exactly what is the right quantity, I still sometimes, I most of the times get it wrong. So it's a journey. You keep on working, and eventually, you will
You
find
reach there.
that particular right ingredient or right amount.
Avinash, oh God, I don't want to stop this podcast, Ron.
But
I
we have
just
a
want to keep.
question from Brilliant. I think let's take
Yes,
that before we
yes.
we
But I have to wrap up. Toastmasters, timing is everything. But before we do that, Avinash, there's one question Brilliant is asking you. He says, just wondering, if I choke when delivering a speech, isn't that credible? Maybe the audience would feel strongly connected. Would love to know your perspective on the choking aspect and credibility.
Yes, true. That will give me credibility. The point is, can I continue? So my choking happens where I am down with respect to that emotion, and can I recover from that choking and deliver the punch? That is the conclusion. Okay.
The
And
winning
if we
message.
can, yeah. So if we can do that, okay, uh, it so happens that in 5 to 7 minutes, if I choke, it's gone. Okay, so but maybe if I have a longer time and I choke, then I can maybe recover and still deliver that conclusion. So credibility, yes, people will feel that, but can you recover? And if you can recover, then maybe you did not choke enough, or I don't know. I have never seen someone who has choked and come back. Okay, but there can always be someone who can really do that. But yes, credibility will always be there, but can you deliver the message? Because what stays, okay, is along with that choking or along with that feeling, is there some hope? Okay, what is that hope? And in so many words, what is that message, or what is that takeaway? Okay, if the choking is the takeaway, it will lose the essence. So that's what I feel.
Wow.
yeah, it makes
Wow is
sense.
only the
It's
thing coming out.
yeah. I mean, it acts like a speed breaker in the speech. And if you have to be able to again accelerate and get back to the story, so yeah, it makes sense. I would rather that the audience be choking up rather than me choking up on the. And yeah, 7 minutes goes by very fast, as each and every Toastmaster can testify. So how much time does choking take? I don't know, but you have to be
Ron,
careful about
tonight,
that.
1 hour has gone by very fast. Like
Yeah,
each
so
and every,
7 minutes is like lightning. Yeah, come.
yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's wrap up with a
Wrap,
vote of thanks to
unfortunately, yeah,
beautiful
unfortunately, we have to
session.
wrap it up. Avinash, any final, final few words for all our wonderful guests and Toastmasters and, people who are going to view you? Final words.
I just want to learn this one more skill in storytelling. Okay, so I'll just share this one, the shortest story ever told in 6 words, okay, by the great Ernest Hemingway.
Wow.
Just listen to this. For sale, baby shoes, never worn.
Ah,
Hit my heart. Truly it did.
Can you deliver those stories in less words? Like Santosh always says, less is more, right? So
mhm.
can you do that with your wordplay? And if you can do that, create those emotions with less words, but people can imagine the whole story in those, I can imagine the whole story in those 6 words that Ernest Hemingway said. If you can do that, you will be an awesome storyteller. And all the best to you on your journey of storytelling.
Thank you, Avinash. That was seriously such a wonderful session. Ron, final words before I.
No, I'm absolutely thrilled. And Avinash, you've taken us on a journey which I just loved every second of this conversation. And for me, having good conversation is a passion. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation just on the first time I asked, and you said, yes, let's do it. I'm very grateful for you to come and give us your time. And I'm sure this is going to be one of the most beautiful sessions we've recorded. And thank you so much. That's all I want to say. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Avinash. Thank you, Ron. Avinash, I have no words. I wish I could, in 6 words conclude and tell you what I feel today, but I can't. I have yet, my journey has just started. I don't want to even summarize what we spoke, because I feel like everything is right now in that realm of magic. Tonight, I felt magic because I have given some speeches. I'm sure people are there in the audience who are going to watch who have given more than 100 speeches. But what you shared with us today, it's like a magician's tip on how to impactfully deliver a story. You spoke about packing up punch. First thing you spoke about is emotions. Find stories in your history, in your past with emotions and connect with that because it's a human's journey. Then you spoke about the hero's journey, which is something that I never knew about. And I love fiction, but I've never thought about a hero's journey, fighting a monster or a quest or a transformation. Then you spoke about the best thing, choking. Even if you add doses of emotion and choke on stage, end on a winning note. That is an amazing, amazing tip. I've never heard about it in storytelling. It's okay to add emotions. It's okay to cry and make the audience cry, but make sure that you always, always end with a hopeful message or on a winning note. Vantage point is another thing that Avinash spoke about. Every incident has different vantage points. Ron definitely loved that. Even I loved that. Next time I'm going to sit down with an incident, the first thing I'm going to do is vantage points. What different vantage points I can find for this incident? Finally, how much is too much? Where exaggeration should start and end? And the best tip I got is how to give a story out, which may be a little offensive for the audience, but move into yourself, go inwards, talk about yourself and how you can tiptoe that line of offense. I'm not going to talk about the 6 words that you spoke. I want people to go back and watch the whole podcast, or listen it on Spotify so that you will get to know what was the last 6 words that Avinash spoke, quoting from Ernest Hemingway. Thank you, Avinash, so much. Ron and I both are very grateful to you to come to our podcast. Thank you. And I don't want to stop, but I have to. And I have to say bye-bye tonight. But for all the people out there, we have someone very special for our episode 4 in Joe and Ro Talk Toastmasters. Now, Ron and I were thinking, should we give a teaser? Should we not give a teaser? But let me tell you something. If Avinash today spoke about giving an impactful story, this person next time is going to share his journey of creating impact on the stage. Someone who, like Avinash, is a champion, but not more. More on that on the next episode. Stay tuned for the teaser and the posters. Thank you so much. Bye-bye from me, Avinash and Ron. Signing off. Thank you.